Hey, welcome again. Thanks for joining me for this review of the models I built in 2023. So to start out the year, I had the Tauntaun with Luke Skywalker build that I did from Stanart's model kits. This was a really fun build to do. It's a beautiful sculpt by Stanarts. I mean, the guy he has few models on his website, but man, the stuff he does is just top-notch, beautiful sculpts. But this was a fully resin kit, you can see here. This is how it came to me. It required a bit of work removing some stuff. I had to do a lot of seam fill-in with some putty and resculpt the hair. You can see there how I did some of the hair resculpting to make it all smooth. I had some 3D printed parts that had to be removed, like this blaster and the goggles for Luke. It was all airbrushed. Went around, I started out by airbrushing Luke and getting him all done up. Did all of his accessories that came with him. Then I went around after building Tauntaun and did primer and airbrushing and did some washes and just started going over him with some dry brushing, picking up all the hair, trying to give it some depth, doing the face, and just building up layers to make it look as realistic as I possibly could. Doing the saddle here, again, several layers of different shades of brown and paint, just trying to build it all up. You know, strap here. For Snow, I did a mixture of some glue, water, and baking soda. Just dabbed that around to make snow build up like Luke had been out in the snow, building it up around the tusks. And we ended up with the final build that you see here, which I was really proud of. Again, beautiful sculpt, so hard to go wrong with this guy. This was a really nice one to do this last year. Also did my Alien Newborn. Didn't actually have a build video of this. I did a video, but I didn't show the full build of it. I just had some still photos, like how it started. This was a resin kit. Got it all built up. Same thing, primed it. I airbrushed it, did some washes of it with grays and browns. The base was really nice, that was fun to paint. Some color variations, a lot of layers built up to get the different shades, and a lot of gloss over that alien head there. But I really like the way this turned out. I'm really happy with it. This was, I believe, a recast from the Polystone, the Sideshow figure, but this was a recast of that, I believe, but a really nice kit. Then we had the pulse rifle. This was not a model kit, but the Hasbro Nerf gun remodification and repaint. This was something I've always wanted. It required a lot of sanding and grinding away of logos and various things that Hasbro puts all over the outside of it. It required a lot of painting. Also had a lot of puttying to fill in with all the screw holes, trying to make it look as realistic as possible. You know, once it got primed, it really started coming to life. Shooting the black on there, it really started to look like something real. Then I went over it with my Brown Best paint. Did some detailing with silver, making it look like it was beat and scratched. I did this mod here of the magazine bottom that I got off of eBay. Also got a real Thompson bolt here, and I replaced it with the toy bolt to make it more accurate in the real thing. And I also removed this middle barrel here. This is where the Nerf bullets come out of, but this is actually not there on the real pulse rifle. So I removed that to make it look more screen accurate, and ended up with this repainted, modded pulse rifle that you see right here. Again, I really like doing the Nerf guns too. Those are a lot of fun to do. Then we had the Bandai Razor Crest. This is definitely a teeny little guy, modeled in the silver already, or that metal color. Drilled out holes in the engine so that I could light them with SMD LEDs. These little guys here, they were flickering yellow SMDs. Did some chipping with some liquid latex for the painted areas here, and then I went around and painted those with a custom mix of yellow I did with some Tamiya yellow paint. You can see how that turned out here. Gone around it with some washing to pick up all the details. Ran my wires of the SMDs through to light up the engines, had them sticking out here. Then glued the engines in place, and we have the finished product here. Not the most highly detailed kit for the size from Bandai as usual. It's very nicely detailed for the size that it is. I would love to be able to do the larger Revell or something. I just do not have the room for it, and this fits on the shelf rather nicely. But I'm happy with how it's turned out, and it's a nice little kit. Then of course we had my spinner from Blade Runner, probably my best build of the year. 55 SMD LEDs in this, 5 cob LED strips, an Adafruit trinket for control. This required out a lot of drilling of holes. You got the back lights here. I had a bunch of photo etch for inside. Had computer screen photo etch here. Had a center console photo etch. The main console screens here. Painted it blue. Here we have some of the lights that were along the bottom of it. Did some airbrushing with some detailing and put those lights in place. All my wiring, getting the lights to work on the bottom here. Lighting up the console, the screens in the front. The center console. More airbrushing, detailing all around the body. Then we had this front headlight here that I did. The seats for the interior. The interior was a lot of fun to do. It turned out really nice. I had a lot of fun working on this and lighting it up. I would say this is probably by far probably a pride and joy kit that I've done. This is, as far as LEDs and electronics go, this is quite the build. And I'm really happy with how this one turned out. Especially with these little flashers and rotating lights. A lot of wiring, big spaghetti mess on the inside, but the end result here, I was just very happy with how this turned out, and definitely a pride and joy among all of my model kits. I would highly recommend this model to anyone. Definitely you need to be skilled to build it. It's not an easy build, but if you can do it, it's just a beautiful kit. Then we had my Imperial Star Destroyer from Bandai. This was another kit. I've always wanted to have a Star Destroyer. I was so happy when this came out. Would have been nice if it was a little bit bigger, but the actual size of this is perfect for me and where my stuff can fit. But this was a lot of fun to build, washing, putting the sides on, building the bridge of the Star Destroyer. I did some black painting on the inside and then white. All the detailing on top to do all this here. Then I did my cob LED strip inside to light up all the windows of the bridge. I had some LEDs in the back section here. Then we had the engine LEDs. These were flicker LEDs so that the engines would flicker and look realistic. Did some lining with foil to bounce the light around with my cob LEDs so that it would light up all the side windows really nice and evenly. Putting the two halves together. The wiring on this wasn't too bad. It wasn't so spaghetti mess, but you can see how bright it is inside there. Then we had some photo etch pieces here that we put on the engine bills to make it a little more screen accurate. And this kit just turned out beautiful. I'm really happy with how it looks. Again, this was Star Destroyer is a kit that I've always wanted to have lit. So I was really happy to be able to get this. This kit was actually the grand prize that I won from Bandai's Sci-Fi Model Contest many years ago. I took the overall Best in Show model prize, and this was the actual prize that I won for taking Best in Show. But highly recommended kit. Really like this one. My Queen Chestburster from Alien 3. This is a life-size 1/1 scale vinyl model kit. I've had this sitting around for a long time assembled. I did not do a build video on this, but this was always assembled. I primed it, ran some coat hanger through the tail so that it could be somewhat posed and be rigid. Again, this was airbrush, building up layers, detailing. I like the way the crown looks on the head. Then did a bunch of gloss on the head. Then I added clear silicone to the mouth area to look like it was dripping drool. And then I started smearing some blood paint that I had made myself, added a little bit of tissue paper in there so it looks like little chunks of innards stuck to him. Then did a bunch of gloss coat over all that to make it look like he was nice and wet. And I'm happy with the way he turns out. He pretty much looked like he was, or she rather, being a queen, looks like she was a freshly bursted burster. So I'm happy with how this one turned out, and it's a nice kit to add to my collection, all of my Alien model kits. Then another kit I did not do a build video on, but I did this, was the American Werewolf in London NECA figure. This was not a model kit, but an action figure. You can see in this toy figure here, there's the joints and seams because it's an action figure. So I puttied all those up. Tried to re-sculpt it and brush it out like hair. Then I did a repaint over the whole thing to make it look like one solid figure as opposed to an action figure. Glued it in this pose, this particular pose, which is what I like when it came out of the alleyway in the movie. This is kind of the pose it had. Again, just did a repaint over it with some grays and browns, dry brushing, and some washing. And I'm just happy with how this turned out, considering there's no actual model kit. It's nice that I was able to do something with this NECA figure. Then we had another Hasbro Nerf gun repaint and modification. This is Boba Fett's EE3 blaster. Another gun that I've always wanted to have on display, and when Nerf came out with this, I knew that I had to get it and try to do a repaint of it. And I'm really happy with how this turned out as well, like my pulse rifle from Aliens. Required a lot of puttying, of screw holes, a lot of sanding. Same as the pulse rifle, it had a lot of logos that were raised that had to be sanded down smooth. Then priming, got that all smoothed out. Then the black paint made it start to come to life. This I used a lot of Rub and Buff metallic paint. Then I went over it with some dry brushing of silver to pick up worn edges and scratches. Did a little bit of some different metallic paints in here. Then went through it with a lot of rust washes. It is quite a rusty gun if you look at it in the film. Then the stock, did some airbrushing with some brown. Then I went over it with a lot of heavy washing with the darker brown. Tried to pick up some of the wood grain. And I really like how this turned out. I think the wood grain is very realistic. I got to give Hasbro props for doing a nice sculpt on this. It definitely made for a nice looking gun. Certainly looks very realistic. Love it hanging on my wall in my room, and I'm just happy to have this. And if you have the ability to do it, I would highly recommend getting this and doing a repaint of it, because it comes out just a really nice looking blaster. Then a little unusual for me, I did this 1962 Chevy Impala. This was a kit I did on behalf of my wife for a close friend of ours. It was a gift for him, but I haven't done a car since I was a teenager or younger. But it was building up the engine, doing some washing, painting on the underside, a lot of black paint before doing various metallic paints on top. Assembling it, this was a fun build to do. Again, it's been so long since I've done a car. It was brought back a lot of memories. It was fun. Painted the interior with a red over the black, so it gave it a dark red look. Then painted all the seats and everything with a red. Put those in place. I did some gloss over them so that I could do a wash. The steering wheel, that was fun to paint. Very small. And the whole dash, did some washing there to pick up all the grills and vents and the pedals down there on the bottom. Just putting it all together was a lot of fun. The body, painted it with black first, did a two-tone, taped it off. Then the bottom of it I did with a silver paint, with a Tamiya silver paint. Then did many gloss coats over it. Added the red stripe down the side with some airbrushing, taping it off and airbrushing. Then the chrome silver trim using some chrome silver pens. I drilled out holes in the headlights. Also drilled out holes for the taillights. Glued in some SMD LEDs there on both the front and the rears. Ran all the wiring through the inside of the car to all of my resistors. Had a USB power supply on the back that was covered up by the license plate, which was magnetically attached. Just plugged in the two halves, put them together, put the hood on, and there is the finished car. And here it is without being powered up. I'm happy with how this turned out, being the first time I've done one in many decades. But it turned out really nice. And then you just, on the back, you can pull that license plate off, plug in a USB, and then you got the front headlights that power up, as well as the rear tail lights power up. As long as the USB plug is plugged in, it lights up. And the interior was a lot of fun. I think that turned out pretty well. So this was a fun build. Fun to do a car since I haven't done it since I was a child. I might have to consider doing some more of these in the future. And last but not least, this year was my Snowspeeder, Bandai Snowspeeder. This is a build that I just did this past month. Again, another build I'm really happy with how it turned out, especially the interior. We had the gunner screen here. We had the front cockpit screen that was photo etched. There was some photo etch that I put inside the seats. Then I wired in some fiber optics. Fiber optics I used for the rear gunner screen here, as well as a regular LED. Just regular SMD LEDs for the front screen. Fiber optics for the sides of the cockpit. Painting was done with some liquid latex for chipping. Then painted over the chipping with some airbrush. Rubbed it away, and this is the effect you got there. Some rust washing over the back section. I like the way the back section of this turned out. I was pleased with how I got that. Chipping with some weathering pencils. Those did some nice work. Then I went over it with some airbrush to add some more weather details, more smooth weathering details with the airbrush there. Then we had all the wiring, doing all of my fiber optics and LEDs. Painting the pilots. Always fun to paint these guys, they're so small. Added some photo etch for seat belts on the pilots, some photo etch on the inside of the canopy. And then we had the snow effects that I did for my base. Put these two guys together, soldering my wires into the base so I could turn it on and off, plug in with USB, and we have the final product that you see here. The Snowspeeder was a lot of fun to build. The photo etch for the interior, got to give props to Green Strawberry for that. Looks beautiful, especially when you add the decals on top of it and have the colored lights inside there. Really happy with how this turned out. So I'd like to thank you all for subscribing and following my builds over the course of this last year. And I hope you all have a great 2024 and a happy new year. Thanks for watching. Hey, if you like watching my videos, please feel free to give them a like. And so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos, click subscribe.